So let's get started with this session. I'm going to start and talk about things that are related to profiles and Preflight reports. And then Dietrich will also come on stage and talk about some other stuff. I'm not going to give away what he's going to talk about. He can do that himself. So, profile editor to begin with. You know what the profile editor is. It looks like this. If you've ever seen one of my trainings, seen or experienced one of my trainings, then I typically bring this window up, and then I tell you that this is the most complex window that exists in pdfToolbox, and that I have for a long time requested to simplify it. And well, in pdfToolbox 15, that was actually done. And so now I will have to invent another joke during my training. But this is what the new window looks like. I will show it in pdfToolbox itself shortly. The main thing to realize, or that you see, is that it no longer has this long list of profiles on the left. It only shows you the profile that you're actually editing. And that brings up two small problems, perhaps. And one of them is that, well, how do you then export multiple profiles? And you could already do that in a different way in pdfToolbox 14 and before as well. But I'll just show you that again. And then the other thing is, having all of these profiles open in the profile editor also made it easier to, for example, put different profiles in or multiple profiles in the same group and things like that. But there are some tweaks to the product that make that easier as well. And so let me go to pdfToolbox 15. We have that here. And then I will just open a profile and see how much of this fits on my screen. It's a much smaller window now. As I said, what mostly changed is that where in the old window you had all of the profiles in your library that appeared as well, together with the one that you were editing, now you only focus on the one profile. There are some other things that changed, and you see that also in the amount of detail that you have here at the top. There used to be what was called wizard pages at the beginning of this profile or in the profile. Those are these pages with predefined checks that you could switch on or off, and those are gone as well. All of the checks and fixes are now in the custom checks and custom fix-ups areas. Convert to standard and standard compliance have also changed a little bit. So when I go to convert to standard, the convert to standard and then the same thing for embedded files are shown together. Previously, they were also two different panes. And then the same thing for standards compliance. The file itself and standard compliance for embedded files have been merged as well. And then very small change, but one that again will influence my training, I'm afraid, is that custom fix-ups is now shown first and then custom checks. And that is how it makes sense, because when you run a profile, it is the fix-ups that are run first and the checks come after. Which is one of the one of the questions everyone gets wrong when I ask it during training. So looks much simpler. Other than that, the way it works has not really changed. You still have a list of fix-ups in the profile. You still have a list of checks in the profile. Functions exactly the same, but the whole window is now easier to deal with. So what I mentioned before is that there may be an issue with doing things for multiple profiles. And the first question is, how do I export multiple profiles at once? Well, if I go here and then I go into this nice menu, and I'm standing right in front of it. So there is bulk export profiles, and that brings up a dialog box where you can make selections of profiles and then you can export them all at once. Not even just as individual profiles, but it even supports subfolders for libraries. So if you have different profiles in different libraries, and it supports creating a zip archive. So that is the solution for the export. And then the other thing is that I can now select multiple items in the profile window here. And then I can go to assign to group, and I get the list of all of the groups in existence. And at the very bottom, I'm very good at doing this so that I'm standing in front of it. At the very bottom, there is a new group choice. And so I can change the grouping of different items in one go as well. All of that should make it easier to edit profiles and work with profiles. Okay. So JSON reports. There is a change there as well. There's a whole bunch of changes that have to do with pre-flight reports and reports in general, and I'll begin with the JSON report. There is a JSON report. It was introduced in pdfToolbox. I want to say 13, but I'm not sure. So there was a JSON report, but it was very different than the existing XML report. Yeah, and so the question that some of you had was, is there a way to get a JSON report that is more similar to how the XML report is structured, also with all of the information that the XML report shows, and so on? And now there is. That means that there are two different versions of a JSON report that you can now generate. And you can see them there, JSON report based on the JavaScript object. That is what you already had in pdfToolbox 14 and before. And then the new one is called similar to the XML report. What is different? Well, this is how the old JSON report looked like. It's a JSON, of course, but the information in it was not structured exactly the way as what you had in the XML report. And if you experiment with the new one, you will see that the structure is very similar to what you would have in the XML report. The way to generate it is, of course, not different than what you would think. So if I have a I do this, I do pre-flight, and then I say create report. I now have simply two options, and you can pick the one that you want to use. So the old one is not going away. That would not work because I'm sure many of you also started using it. So that is not going away. You're just getting a new JSON report type in addition to the old one. Okay. And then custom reports. Custom reports were introduced quite a while ago by now. I'm not even going to try and remember what version it was because that was early on. And there have been things added to it. That's what I want to say. So over the years, more and more capabilities were introduced. That doesn't necessarily make them easier. They use these HTML templates, and you have to understand how the template works. And for some people, that is challenging. So in the previous version of pdfToolbox or the version before, I really have issues with versions. We need an extensive list of pdfToolbox versions and which feature was introduced when. There was a template that was introduced, so a standard Preflight report template that comes with the product and that you can start using as is. And that has been made easier over the years. And so in pdfToolbox 15, some new functionality is introduced in that standard Preflight report template. The first thing is what you would expect. There is a new option in the manifest. The manifest is this XML file that lives in the template. And it's really a communication file, if you want, between pdfToolbox and your template. So the template can tell pdfToolbox what it wants in terms of functionality or in terms of information. And in that manifest, you can now specify the option JSON v2 report. Why would you want to do that? Well, when you run Preflight, sometimes you want information that is not readily available, that pdfToolbox doesn't make available immediately, but when you generate an XML report or you generate a JSON report, then you can extract the information from those reports. And so now that there is a new JSON report format, you also in the manifest have the option to generate that as part of the Preflight process, and then your templates can extract information from that report. So that is one thing. The second thing is that in that default HTML report template, there are a number of sections that you can easily switch on. And those are things like a separation preview and things like that. Two of those things that you can do with the visualizer, you could not switch on in that template. And those were the image resolution previews. So those are the gray versions of the document where images that have a resolution that is too low are highlighted in red. And then also the small objects preview. Same thing, but now what gets highlighted is text that is too small or vector art that is too thin. So those two things can be generated with the visualizer in pdfToolbox, but you could not easily use them in sections in the Preflight report. And so those have been added to that. It doesn't look very strange, so this is the way to generate or to ask for a JSON v2 report, and then this is what it would look like if you want the image resolution or the small object pages in the Preflight report as well. And I can attempt to show that. So let's go back here and let's see. I have this file that I want to use, and then I want to run Preflight. And once I've run Preflight, let's not zoom in too much. There we go. Once I run Preflight, I can say I want to store it in the results section, and I want a PDF report custom, which is the one based on HTML. And then I want my version of the templates, which is the same as the standard template, but in the manifest I have switched these things on that I want. And then when I generate that, I have the ink coverage page and then the separation preview. And then this is the image resolution section. So this shows which images I have that have a resolution that is not high enough. And then I also can get a page for small objects. And again, my document is really good, it doesn't have any. But again, this will highlight in red things that are too small. And you have the legend there that explains what that means. So very small thing, but very useful. And if I go to Visual Studio Code and I show you my report folder, and then we look at the manifest, you will see these same things. So I'm just going to scroll down. What you see, I made it a little bit smaller because I also wanted to make screen grabs of that. But if you look in the template, you will see that there is a lot of information in there that explains what the options are that you can have and so on. You just need to enable the lines that you want. And so, for example, I'm asking for image resolution. The resolution is, or the preview resolution that I'm creating is 20 dpi. I'm saying that the minimum resolution is 150 or 550 for black and white images. And then I can also determine, well, I can determine a number of things. So I can decide whether I want to see this or not. But I can also decide if I want to see only pages where there are problems or I want to see all pages. And as you saw in my preview, I have, well, the value here is 0. That means that that option is disabled. It's a double negative. It's disabled, so it will show all pages even if they have no problems on them. And I could also use the page selector to determine in which pages I'm interested. And I could, for example, only do page 1 and 2 of a multi-page document, things like that. Yeah. So again, this is a copy that I have of the standard template that comes with pdfToolbox 15. And then if you want these things, you will have to go into the manifest and you might have to enable some of the sections that you're interested in. Just comment them out or make sure that they are not commented out, and then you get these pages, extra pages in the Preflight report. If you're upgrading from pdfToolbox 13 or 14, if you upgrade, you might not get the latest version of some of these elements like the Preflight report template because you already have one in your library. What you can always do is do the upgrade in pdfToolbox 15, create a new library. That new library will get a copy of a fresh copy of the Preflight report template and then start from there. And I know that works because I had to do it. So that is not the only thing that is different. So we looked at these new options in the manifest. There are two other things that you can do, and they're kind of opposite sides of the same coin. So the first thing that you can do is this manifest, as I said, is kind of a communication vehicle between pdfToolbox and your templates. Well, you can now have your own keys in there. And so you can make a manifest file in your template where you put your own information, and then that information is made available by pdfToolbox to the calls params file. The calls params file, if you've ever worked with a template like this, is where pdfToolbox puts all of the information about the Preflight, all of the information about the document, but also Preflight results and so on. And then typically that is read by your template, and then the template generates the HTML, and that gets converted to a PDF report. So in pdfToolbox 15, you can have your own values in there, and what that looks like is something like this. Yeah? So in one of the sections in the templates, you define a key that is called custom, and then you define parameters in there. They can be whatever you want, and you give them a value, and those things are stored in the JavaScript or JSON file calls params. I'm not going to show you a demo of that, but I am going to show you a demo of the opposite part of the coin. And what is the opposite part of the coin? Well, you can, in pdfToolbox 15, control the manifest file, or at least the values in the manifest file, from within JavaScript. And that sounds very cryptic. So let me see if I can make it a little bit less cryptic. So we don't need these. I need a nice example file for this. And I'm actually going to have 2 files for that. So I have 2 files. And now I made a little profile, and we're going to see what that does. So I run Preflight, and I say create a custom report, put that in my result folder, and give me a custom report, like I said. And then I'm using my template. Yes, you can overwrite that. Okay, and that creates, and now let's see if I can also see where I put my results. Here. It creates this Preflight report. That is what we would expect, right? I do Preflight, I create a custom report, and then that's it. Good. So now let's look at this file, and I'm going to do the same thing and put it in results. I always forget to switch that to custom, and then use my templates. Okay. And now here's the strange thing. I just pre-flighted the previous file, and it just gives me the report. And now I do exactly the same. I create a report for this other file, and it creates both the PDF and it gives me the intermediate HTML template. So it actually saved a copy of the HTML template. And if you've created templates like that, you should know that that is a possibility. You can, in the manifest, switch on a certain section, keep temp, and then it does what you just saw. And the reason for that is that while you are debugging things, it is often very useful to see what the HTML was, for example, or what the calls params file was, and so on. So it's a very useful feature, but you have to switch it on in the manifest file. So why do I get different behavior for these 2 files? Well, the reason for that is what I just said. So if I go to this profile, look at how simple this profile editor is. When I go to this profile, I can look at the profile itself, and you'll see that there is a little script that is used in there. So there is a bit of JavaScript in there. And when I edit the JavaScript, it is very, very simple. I look at the file name of the document that is being pre-flighted, and I check whether the file name includes _debug_. And of course, that could be whatever you want it to be. And then this is the real new thing that you have in pdfToolbox 15. So there is a new object under the app object. So app.context.report.manifest. And if I put things in there, those things override the values in the manifest file. And so you can see that I have settings, and under settings I have keep temp. That is that keep temp element that I was just talking about. So if that is set to yes in the or true in the manifest, then a temporary folder is created. If it's set to false, then the temporary folder is not created. And so here I modified that value by what I learned from the document file name. So if my document file name contains the word debug, then the temporary folder is kept, and otherwise it is not kept. It is, of course, not just that value that you can override. You can override all of the things that you find in the manifest. And that means that, for example, I could also override the resolution of preview images that are generated, or I could override which pages I want to preview from, or any of the things that you typically have in the manifest. That by itself is pretty cool, because that means that I can now have a single template, but with JavaScript looking at properties of the document or properties that come into variables from the outside, I can modify, change the behavior of this template. So that is a pretty cool thing. At least I think so, but it includes JavaScript, and I typically find those things cool. So next thing is something about process plans, and I will also show this with a little bit of a demo, but then I'm going to ask you some questions first, and then we'll see how it works. So I have a very simple process plan here. It has a start, an end, and then it has one preflight check. And the preflight check gives an error if there is more than one page in the document. So what happens when I have a multi-page PDF document and I run this? I get an error message. That is pretty predictable, and no one would probably have said the opposite, right? At least I hope so. So this is a slightly more difficult question, and I'm not going to give you the answer. We'll see in pdfToolbox. I'm just going to show you the two things that I want to try. Same preflight check, but now when the preflight check is done, I'm doing a file pickup. Remember, file pickup is a step in a process plan that allows me to go back in time to a version of the PDF before one of the other steps. And so in this setup, I actually want to go back to the PDF file the way it was before I did this preflight check. And then the real question is, do I then get an error, preflight error, or not? Because I kind of go back in time. Do I get a preflight error or not? And we'll see in a second. I can already tell you that it's different between pdfToolbox 14 and 15. And then the even harder question is, well, what if I not only have a preflight check, but I also do a fix, and then I do file pickup? What happens then? So those are the things I want to see in pdfToolbox 15. Well, that is not difficult to try, because let me go back to my files here, and do I have a specific file for this? I don't think so. There. And now I have a brief. What do I want here? Here. These. So this is my first case. Very simple. And just to make sure that we understand each other, oh, this is a one-page document. I knew there was something I had to take into account. So this is a multi-page file. Of course, when it's only one page, it doesn't give an error. When it's a multi-page PDF file, it gives a preflight error. That is exactly what I would expect. Now, here is the second process plan. So once again, I have my preflight check, and then there is a file pickup, and the file pickup picks up the file from before the preflight check. So actually, it picks up the original file. That is what that boils down to. What happens when I run this? In pdfToolbox 14, this would generate a Preflight error. In pdfToolbox 15, it does not generate a Preflight error. And the reason is that when we go back in time, pdfToolbox 15 really goes back in time. So also the status result value of the process plan goes back to how it was before that step. So that is a change in how that works. Now, what happens in this case? Because normally when you do a fix-up, you would expect pdfToolbox to ask you where you want to save this document, because it's going to modify the document. Yeah? And so in this process plan where I do a fix-up, I would expect pdfToolbox to do that. The question is, I just shown you that for the result value, we go back in time and we forget about it. The question is, are we going to forget about that fix-up as well? And I know what the answer is. It's probably not what you think, but we'll see. So I have to run this one now, and the answer is, well, it doesn't seem like it has gone all the way back in time, because it still asks me where I want to save this. What is the reason for that? Well, the reason is that when you make a process plan, of course, not when I have a process plan that is this simple, but when you make a process plan, these process plans can be really, really complex. If you haven't seen a complex process plan, trust me, I have. Some of our customers are really good at making things where you get a headache when you look at it. So process plans can be very, very, very complex. And if you start using things like file pickup, it can be really hard to detect whether you, in all cases in the process plan, because you can do conditional processing as well, whether you, in all cases in the process plan, go back to the original file or not. Will the file ever be modified or not? That is something that can be really hard to answer for all process plans. And so what happened is that in the options for your process plan, there is a new checkbox. Do not save modified input file. And so if you make a process plan like the one we just saw, where you are certain that you don't need the modifications, then you can switch that on. And now when I run this, it doesn't ask me where I want to save it. And actually, it was slow enough that you saw what happened. It converted it to gray, and then it did the file pickup and went back to the original version of the document. And because I have switched on that checkbox, it has not gone back and asked, or it has not asked me, do you want to save the original file? And I don't have to choose anything. It simply runs to the end, and that's it. Yeah? But it's your responsibility to switch on that checkbox or not. And of course, you should only switch it on if you are sure that you don't want the results of this process plan. Good. So that was one other thing. And then the next slide is actually for Dietrich, but I don't know if there meanwhile are, I will tell you what, I will set this up for you so that you can start, and then you can tell me meanwhile if there are any questions to answer.
I think everything has been answered. It was noticed that your shirt nicely meets the background of our slides. So I think lots of the discussion during the first slides went about that.
Good.
There was an agreement from Lucian that process plan indeed can tend to be complex. And then can the show custom areas in test mode? There's another one. Let me read it. I haven't understood it so far. Can the show custom areas in the test mode be used to define a page box? I think that goes to me. Can the custom? I mean, yes, indeed. So if you would use the fix up set page geometry boxes and there you define a custom area, then indeed you would have an indication in the test mode.
Yes.
And then there is another question that goes to you. I already use file pickup in version 15. Should I switch on the checkbox for evert one in v15?
Yeah, so that's what I just said. It depends on what you do in this process plan. If you use fix-ups as a temporary thing in order to detect something, for example, and then you go back to the state it was before, then yes, you could switch that on. Yeah. But if you're modifying, if in the process plan you're modifying the file and you expect the modified version to be saved, then no, do not switch it on. So it really depends on what the purpose of the process plan is, whether you switch it on or not. Yeah? I know, as an example, I know we created a very complex process plan at one point to check for EPM, enhanced print mode, enhanced print mode. So we created a very complex process plan, and you cannot detect everything by just doing pre-flight checks. We also had to do some fix-ups and modify the document and create different modified versions. And then at the end, there was a bit of JavaScript that looked at all of the things that happened and that determined yes or no, good or not. But we were absolutely not interested in the temporary versions of this document. And there was a file pickup in there that went back to the original file before we give you the verdict, yes or no. In that case, it would be really helpful to switch on that checkbox, because then pdfToolbox is not going to ask me where I want to save my modifications, even though I know very well that I'm not interested in the modifications. They were just temporary results. So it really depends on what you're using it for.
I guess that's it.
Good, then it's your turn.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, let me maybe still get back. Oh, no. We are at slides. Okay. Adjustable solutions. This, as almost everything in this launch event, goes back to PDF Camp. So at one point in PDF Camp, feature requests were raised, wishes were raised, one was, can I have somehow have access to a color in a certain area of a PDF file. So I have a PDF file and I want to determine in a certain spot on that PDF page what color is being used there. There was the one request, and the other one were similar, what text is being used there. Yeah? And then we were thinking about it during the event, whether that is worth to being implemented. And then we thought, okay, actually that should already be possible using some JavaScript. And since the request was to have that information in the JavaScript, you naturally need to do JavaScript. So, and then we thought, and it was not immediately clear even to us that that already is possible. So what we thought, okay, maybe instead of now implementing it and what can we implement because everything is already there, we should come up with something in our documentation where we make that solutions available for download. And we should also make sure that it's not just some JavaScript that I can do. It should have some quality. It should have some degree of stability, and that is because some of them have been written by somebody, and then all of them have been approved by Vincent, who is sitting right here. So to again give him some credits. And I want to, so you will, I'm not sure whether Zara managed to already switch this new chapter live, but it's going to be live when we release pdfToolbox 15. There will be a new chapter, chapter 31, and that has downloadable and adjustable solutions. And I want to introduce you into 4 of them. Actually, there will be 6. Yeah. And the first is the one that I've mentioned. It's a color picker. It determines the average CMYK color in an area on a page, and it places the color patch in exactly that area. And the background is, so why would you want to use it? The use case was I have some page and there is color, and I want to do something similar to bleed generation. So, but since it's always the same background color, I don't have to mirror anything. I just want to create a new patch, and that should have the color of the object that is closed to that area. And then now let's have a look. Here I have process plans, and I want to open my file here. Okay. Sure. This is this. Whenever I switch to full screen. Okay, it worked. Whatever. So we don't necessarily need full screen. So we use this one, and then you should see my pdfToolbox indeed. And then we use my file here. And then, oh no. So then I'm back in pdfToolbox. And then I can use my color picker. And then I just use it in test mode. And I already said test mode is quite powerful. And that we should mention it once in a while, because keystrokes are somewhat hidden. So whenever I click the Alt key here, it modifies the edit button to test. And I'm using it right now because I immediately want to enter the test mode from here. I don't want to edit it. I just want to run it in test mode, and comes up with a question. It asks me whether I want to do that for all pages or only for a single page. Since it's a one-pager, it's safe to just go for all. And then I need to enter some values. I can use this one here at the bottom to just restore the previous values. Okay. What it is. But anyway, so I hit OK, and then, as I've said, so I've selected this area here. It has calculated the average color value in there, and it has created the patch there. And just for the ones who want to play with it or possibly adjust it, in the end, that is where it is made for. I have a very simple process plan here. In the first step, the color is being determined using effective ink coverage, and then the color values, the trigger values that come out of it are translated so that my place content-based fix-up can then use them. So, and everything that happens in here, what happens in this step here is, we can see that when we open the editor, we need to select the context here, which is the process plan, and then it will run again. And apparently you should a page number here, whatever. You can use one or you use all. I run it. Again, I'm using this nice button here to restore the previous values, and then runs, and then what it does is it now creates an object where I have 4 elements, and each element has a number which is a color value in that area. Yeah, and then so that's it. So, and then just to explain it, I have here console log statement that shows me what is actually coming out of the thing as a trigger value, and everything that's happening here is just a transformation from this string into an object. Yeah, so fairly simple and hopefully easily adjustable. And I've just learned from Vincent, and I want to make him happy to mention it, that doesn't seem to be the last version. So the last version that you will find in the documentation should be even better than what you've just seen. Moving on. No, I need to. Yes, we'd use that one. And now the similar one, the other one was reading text at a specified position. So we can do that as well. I go to text and area. I need pdfToolbox. I need a file. And then we can use determine text and area. Again, I'm using the Alt key to immediately enter the test mode. It comes up with a question, so which page I want to use. I want to use the first page, and notice that I here have a name in the address field, Amy McDaniel. And then I will use the values that I have found out work in this case. So it's just 15 millimeters from the left edge, 50 from the bottom, 30 millimeters wide, and 8 millimeters height. And then if I run it, it does similar to what we've did before. It places a patch onto here, but now it's using the name. So it indicates the area that I have selected with a green rectangle, and in there it places the text that it has read. So I could use this tool to, I don't know, determine which page has actually Amy McDaniel in it, and then do something with that page. So remove that page or recolor it or whatever. And again, that is even, it's simple. So it determines the text, it just saves the text into the variable, and this is just used for visualization. So it places a rectangle and it places the text there. Next one. Here we had that one. Yeah, that I don't want to explain. There is a variant of the previous one that doesn't use the text as being read by pdfToolbox engine itself. It instead applies OCR to the area. So if, for instance, there would be an image in that area, or if there would be a problem in the encoding, as I've mentioned when we were talking about PFA, that would be a safer way to do so. So you could, in that variant, instead of directly using the text, first create an image and apply OCR to it. And then this one here works differently. It always works on the whole page or even on the whole document. And it creates a text report, a text export, but instead of using the text that pdfToolbox finds on the page itself, it creates intermediate OCR. And we've just learned about the file pickup from David, so it should be easy to understand. First step, just remove any existing OCR text if already present, then it rasters the page, then it applies OCR, it exports text, and then it goes back to the original file. And the process plan that you will be able to download will also use this do not save result file check mark, because you're not interested in the intermediate result. So when you run it, you will get the text export next to the input file. You could, in the export text action, also use the feature that I have shown you in the first part. So you could create a subfolder in the result file, but you won't get any result file. Yeah. And last one, also a question that was brought up in PDF Camp. I want to scale a page. I don't want to use the other methods for creating bleed, for instance. I want to scale the page just slightly, but I want to keep all the technical colors, all the technical objects, or what you could have on a processing steps layer. I want to keep all of that. And the process plan that will be available for download does exactly that. So first, removes everything that is not a processing steps object. So it just keeps the processing steps objects, saves the result, and then there is a single JavaScript step here that is only needed in order to save the result file, so that I have the path to the file copy that has just been created. Then I go back to the original file. Then I remove all the processing steps object that I had saved beforehand. Then I scale the page, and then I overlay that page with the result file that has been previously created. And you could easily, of course, adjust it to something else. So we are using processing steps here, but you could use the same with, for instance, text. So first remove everything that is not text, and then scale the page, recolor the page, or whatsoever, and then put the text on top of it. The only thing is you will always have to put the stored things on top of the other objects or behind, but you can't restore the original Z order. Yeah, and that could be the final thing that we want to do today. So I here have my file again. I do the same. I run it in test mode. And now I'm using not 110%, but I'm using 150%, just so that we are safely seeing something. And then you see it has scaled the whole page. However, it has kept the die line where it was. And I guess that's pretty much it, what I wanted to demonstrate. In that section, in that new chapter in the online documentation, there will be 2 more process plans, but those ones had been introduced already. They were and still are already available. We just thought, okay, they actually fit very well into here, so they will show up here as well. And that's it.